Kris Boyd, Rangers player, Ibrox exit may be set in stone, and more massive transfer twists, shocking exits, and blockbuster deals. Rangers are at a crossroads. Who's leaving? Who's coming in? And could the club pull off a stunning signing? Want to see these and more Rangers news? Stay until the end. We are the people. Kris Boyd has not held back in his assessment of Rangers transfer dealings, particularly in the case of Vaclav Cerny. The former striker has voiced his frustration over the club's failure to secure a permanent deal for the Czech winger, warning that time may be running out to keep him at Ibrox beyond the summer. Cerny arrived from Wolfsburg last summer and has since established himself as one of Rangers' standout performers, with 11 goals and 2 assists in the Scottish Premiership, as well as 6 goals and 2 assists in the Europa League. He has been a rare bright spark in a season plagued by inconsistency. However, the fact that he was only brought in on loan with no purchase option or obligation is now a major concern. Writing in the Scottish Sun, Boyd was highly critical of Rangers' recruitment approach, arguing that this type of hesitation has already cost the club key players in the past. He pointed to the cases of Abdallah Sima and Malik Tillman, both of whom came to Ibrox impressed and then moved on to Champions League clubs without Rangers having any real control over their futures. Boyd believes the club's failure to act decisively means players' values rise beyond their reach, making retention impossible. The situation with Cerny appears to be following the same pattern. With the impending takeover by the San Francisco 49ers group, Rangers are in a period of transition, and this uncertainty is seemingly delaying key transfer negotiations. The most common defense for the lack of a deal is that financial commitments have been placed on hold while ownership changes hands. However, Boyd refuses to accept this as a valid excuse, suggesting the club should have been proactive long before reaching this point. Meanwhile, Andy Newport of the Daily Record sees things differently. He argues that if Rangers can secure Cerny for £5.5 million, it would be an absolute bargain for a player who has carried the team in crucial moments this season. The big question, however, is whether this figure is realistic or whether Wolfsburg will demand a significantly higher fee now that Cerny's performances at Ibrox have boosted his market value. With time running out and no guarantees about the player's future, the focus now shifts to the incoming owners. The 49ers, known for their strategic planning in American football, may well want to retain Cerny as part of their vision for the club, but that will depend on how much they are willing to invest and whether they view him as an essential part of Rangers' future. Will Rangers finally learn from past mistakes and ensure Cerny remains at Ibrox? Or are we about to witness yet another key player slip through the cracks while our rivals continue to strengthen without hesitation? Colombian winger Oscar Cortes. The 21-year-old arrived at Ibrox from Lens on loan in January 2024, with a clause obliging Rangers to make the deal permanent for £3.5 million. However, with injuries hampering his impact, serious questions are now being asked about whether the club should go through with the transfer. Cortez has barely featured for the first team, managing just 7 appearances and clocking up a mere 209 minutes on the pitch. With 0 goals or assists to his name, his contribution has been virtually non-existent. For a club that has already made costly recruitment errors in recent seasons, the prospect of spending £3.5 million on an injury-prone player is ringing alarm bells among supporters. Boyd, writing in the Scottish Sun, did not hold back in his criticism of the deal. He sarcastically dubbed Cortez the Where's Wally of Scottish football due to his lack of appearances, before questioning the club's decision-making. He stated that if there is any way to void the deal, Rangers must explore it immediately rather than making yet another expensive mistake in the transfer market. The question now is whether Rangers have any legal or contractual grounds to back out of the agreement, if there is a clause that allows them to void the transfer due to recurring injuries or failure to meet specific performance thresholds, then it would be sheer madness not to exercise it. Otherwise, the club could be locking itself into a deal that provides no return on investment. There is also the possibility of financial or regulatory loopholes that could allow Rangers to step away from the deal. If there are outstanding payment terms that have not been met, or if league regulations have changed in a way that affects the obligation, the club could potentially use this to their advantage. Regardless of how they approach the situation, Rangers cannot afford to continue throwing money away on players who fail to make an impact. With a new era on the horizon under the ownership of the San Francisco group, financial sustainability must be a priority. Wasting £3.5 million on a player who can't stay fit would be an unforgivable blunder. Should Rangers do whatever it takes to walk away from this deal, even if it damages their reputation in future negotiations, or should they honor the agreement and take the risk that Cortez may never reach his potential at Ibrox? Kieran Dowell's time at Ibrox appears to be nearing its conclusion, with the midfielder thriving at Birmingham City and attracting serious interest from the English club in making his move permanent. Sent out on loan in January after failing to impress under Philippe Clement, Dowell has found new life in League One, scoring 3 goals and registering 1 assist in just over a dozen appearances. It is a stark contrast to his spell at Rangers, where he managed only 2 Premiership starts in the first half of the season and never truly cemented a place in the team. Now, Birmingham boss Kris Davies has openly admitted that he wants to keep the 27-year-old at St Andrews beyond this campaign, confirming discussions with Director of Football Craig Gardner regarding a potential deal. Davies has been full of praise for Dowell, suggesting that the former Everton man simply was not utilised properly at Rangers. He believes the midfielder's intelligence and technical ability fit Birmingham's playing style far better than they did at Ibrox, and it is evident that Dowell is enjoying his football again after a frustrating spell in Scotland. With just 1 year left on his contract at Rangers, it seems highly unlikely that he will return to Glasgow, especially with the club undergoing a period of major transition. The takeover by the San Francisco 49ers group is still being finalized, and Barry Ferguson has been placed in interim charge, leaving a huge question mark over who will be making the key decisions at Ibrox next season. A permanent move to Birmingham makes sense for all parties. The Blues are on course for automatic promotion to the Championship, sitting comfortably at the top of the League One table with a 9-point cushion over second-placed Wrexham and 2 games in hand. If they secure their return to England's second tier, they will be in an even stronger position to sign Dowell, who has already established himself as an important player in their promotion push. For Rangers, it would be a clean break from a signing that never really worked out. The club cannot afford to keep players who are surplus to requirements, especially with a rebuild likely to take place in the summer. The focus should be on strengthening key areas, not holding on to players who have struggled to make an impact. Was Dowell simply the victim of poor management at Rangers, or was he never good enough to play for the club in the first place? Nico Raskin's future at Ibrox has become one of the hottest talking points as the Belgian midfielder continues to impress both domestically and internationally. With Premier League interest emerging and the lure of Saudi Arabia's spending power in the background, speculation is growing that Rangers could cash in on the 24-year-old this summer. Scott Arfield, now a BBC pundit, has weighed in on the situation, suggesting that Rangers should expect to receive around £10 million if they decide to sell. Given that Raskin arrived from Standard Liège for just £1.5 million in 2023, that would represent a significant profit. However, Arfield was quick to temper expectations, pointing out that as a defensive midfielder, Raskin does not have the goal-scoring numbers that typically attract the biggest bids. Despite this, Raskin's stock is undoubtedly rising. He put in a commanding performance in Rangers' recent win at Parkhead, then followed it up by making his full senior debut for Belgium, earning a standing ovation in their 3-0 victory over Ukraine. These displays have added to his growing reputation, and with 2 years left on his contract, Rangers hold a strong position in any negotiations. From a business perspective, Rangers must be ruthless in maximizing his value. If clubs in England's top flight are interested, the Ibrox hierarchy must engineer a bidding war. Premier League clubs are desperate for quality midfielders, and Raskin's tenacity, work rate, and technical ability make him an attractive prospect. The same goes for Saudi clubs, where money is no object. If they come knocking, Rangers must ensure they do not settle for a low ball offer. What cannot happen is another scenario where a key player leaves for less than his true worth. The club has been guilty of that in the past, and if Raskin is to depart, his fee must reflect his rising stature. With careful handling, Rangers should be aiming for at least £15 million, not simply accepting the first reasonable offer that comes their way. Should Rangers stick to their guns and demand a premium fee, or should they accept that Scottish football's financial reality means £10 million is as good as they will get? Lennon Miller to Ibrox? At this stage, it looks like a long shot, unless Rangers first generate funds through player sales. The highly rated Motherwell midfielder is one of the most sought-after young talents in Scotland, with clubs across Europe, the Premier League, and even Celtic circling for his signature. But with Rangers in a summer of transition, the financial reality may dictate that Miller is out of reach. At just 18 years old, Miller has already been called up to Steve Clarke's Scotland squad and is being touted as the best young talent to emerge from the country in a generation. His technical ability, composure, and eye for a pass make him a standout in midfield. And it's no surprise that Lyon, Udinese, and Union Saint-Gilloise have all been knocking at Motherwell's door. The issue for Rangers is simple: money. The club is on the brink of a major overhaul under the new ownership of 49ers Enterprises, and priorities need to be set. Securing a permanent deal for Vaclav Cerny, arguably the team's best player this season, should be at the top of the list. There's also the question of who will be managing the team going forward, with Barry Ferguson's future yet to be clarified. And with multiple areas of the squad needing improvement, spending £8 million or more on an 18-year-old may not be feasible. Meanwhile, Celtic, flush with Champions League revenue and domestic success, have the financial muscle to make a move without hesitation. That's exactly what former Aberdeen CEO Keith Wyness pointed out, urging them to get the deal done while Rangers remain in a holding pattern. If a Premier League club enters the race, the situation becomes even more difficult for Rangers, as our English teams can easily outbid any Scottish side. Make no mistake, signing Miller would be a massive statement. Rangers have historically been more proactive in recruiting top Scottish talent, and losing out on him would be a bitter pill to swallow. But unless significant sales happen or the 49ers make an early financial commitment, it's hard to see how the club competes in this transfer battle. Should Rangers break the bank and gamble on signing Miller, even if it means delaying other squad rebuilds, or is this a fight the club simply can't afford to get into? If you haven't seen yesterday's video yet, you're missing out. Explosive news about Rangers that'll leave every fan stunned. Go check it out now.